This is Cult Confessions with Christy and Josie. Welcome to our podcast.
Trigger warning. May contain themes of religious trauma and sexual abuse. Disclaimer. All information in this podcast is our opinion based on our experiences. We do not purport any of this content to be inherently factual and believe that each individual has the right to draw their own conclusion.
Hi, I'm Christy.
And I'm Josie. And today on Cult Confessions, we are going to be talking about some of the recent events going on. We'll get into some details a little bit later at Faith Baptist Church in Spokane, Washington. If anybody doesn't know at this point, that's the church that I grew up in from the time that I was 8 to the time I graduated high school. Most of our guests have been from that church, just a lot of connections with that church and the two of us. Your husband's from Faith, and you went to Faith a couple times, right?
Yeah, we went to Faith right after we moved to Spokane after getting married. So we attended a few times, and I feel like I remember them wanting us to join so that I could sing at the church. Yeah, because you're not allowed to do anything unless you're a member.
No, you can't. You can't serve in ministry is what they call it. And that
includes, and I was like, I don't really want to. I don't like this church.
What didn't you like about it? Because you just got married, you're going to this church, you're still IFB. What didn't you like about it?
It was just really dead, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was either really old people or young people our age that were having popping out a million kids.
Yeah.
And we just didn't relate to anybody.
You don't want to pop out a million kids right away? What's wrong with you?
No, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't marry someone who forced me to pop out a million kids because I probably would be dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew for sure that I wanted to wait at least 4 years before having kids. So that was just something that we weren't going to be doing anytime soon, especially I think growing up the way I did, we were always really tight on money and never really had a house for very long. So I think that I kind of just wanted us to be in a position where we could financially afford it and have a house and have a home and not have to worry about those things. I think that was kind of one of my biggest fears for quite a bit of time, of just if we did get a house, then we would end up losing it, because that was just kind of how I grew up. That was kind of my trauma, I guess, from growing up a little poorer. So I felt there wasn't really a group for us to fit in. And I remember we went to the young couples class or something, and it was just weird and just not really our vibe. So we just didn't want to join, and after leaving, we thought about going to kind of more of a contemporary church, but we just ended up not really wanting to do church anymore, and then obviously deconstructing and then deconverting. Right. So
well, that makes sense. But faith is just not, it's not a good place. We know that it's not a good place. But
no, for reals though, it almost feels like you can feel that it's not a good place.
You can feel the ickiness in the air.
Yeah, for reals. I really do feel it feels dark and I don't know how to explain it. It has a weird feeling for sure.
You know what I think it is?
What?
It's the orange pews with the blue carpet in the auditorium.
No, I don't know. I just never, I don't know. I think it's just I'm sure it's my intuition, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think that, um, I would assume that Nathan would have probably been fine with to keep attending.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I was like, I don't like it and I don't want to
Yeah.
go there. So,
I mean,
um,
like, I give Nathan a little bit of credit there for not forcing you to. Like, we
yeah,
love
well,
that he's
yeah,
not a
no,
piece of shit.
he's not that he can't force me to do things, but
Oh yeah,
I'm
no,
I'm not one to be forced.
no.
Is
But it's
more.
just like that dynamic is
I would
very
say,
different.
yeah. I would say it's not on like the fact that he doesn't have the power or whatever the fuck people feel that that is, but I personally don't like to be controlled or forced to do
Yeah,
things I don't want to do.
yeah,
Um, and I get that from my mother and my Hispanic roots, and I'm proud of that. So,
yeah.
whatever.
No, yeah. I
But
think that that dynamic of like you even get a choice in the matter
mhm,
is just it's so different, and I'm
yeah,
glad that like you're the like that you set that up in your marriage like super early. Um,
yeah,
I also think like just knowing Nathan, he's not very bossy or controlling in general. Like that's just
yeah.
not his
No,
personality.
I don't think we could work if we were both
No,
controlling.
no.
I'm unfortunately extremely controlling.
Yeah,
I try
that's
not to
okay.
be. It just is what it is. And I think a lot of it stems from my anxiety, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
I like needing that control because I feel like if I don't have the control of one thing or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then like everything, because everything else I can't control. Like, right, there's a bunch of things I
Exactly.
can't control, but if I'm able to like kind of feel like I have control on something, it makes me feel
Yep.
better. So I feel like it comes from that. But yeah, I can be a bossy bitch, I guess.
That's
You
okay. I like you anyway. So can
know.
I. I am very controlling. Ask my younger siblings, and they will both agree that I am very bossy. I'm very type A. I get overstimulated really
Yeah.
easily, so like everything has to be exactly the
See,
way that we need it to be.
it's weird because like I feel like I'm not really type A, but at the
Mm.
same time, when it comes to certain things, I'm like these things have like a- especially when I'm having like a lot of anxiety and like panic attacks and stuff,
Yeah.
when I'm really stressed out, for some reason I do hold on to that control extremely. Like I noticed that when I was having my mental health issue, like during that time postpartum, where it was
Mm-hmm.
like I needed it to be done the way I asked it to be done.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you why, but it had to be done that way.
It's
Or else
understandable.
it was like if they didn't, then it would just like spiral me and like it was horrible. Like I never want to feel that
Yeah.
way again. But yeah, I try not to be that way, but like I do tend to prefer to have control and I think it's just must be like a coping
I'm sure it
mechanism too.
is.
So,
I think like it's definitely an anxiety thing. Like everybody that I know that has some form of like diagnosed anxiety, whether it's moderate or mild or severe or whatever, like there are things that we have to be able to control, and if not, it sets the anxiety off like nobody's business.
yeah.
Um,
But I think that I really do feel like it was my intuition and like my
yeah,
like literally just trusting my instincts of like not
yeah,
wanting to stay there. And I'm so thankful because I just like couldn't imagine staying there and then ending up having kids there. Like
right,
holy fuck. Like I have a daughter. First like I if we were there, we would have had our daughter and like
yeah,
there's no way in hell like I didn't know all of the things that had happened there
right,
quite yet. I don't
right,
think. So I feel like I already had like the mother's intuition to just be like, fuck this place. No.
right.
It doesn't feel right. It didn't I don't know. It really just like aligned and like I felt a certain way about the place, and I ended up just following my heart with it and trusting my instincts, and am so thankful that we didn't stay there and
Yeah.
get traumatized and have my kids be in a situation that would cause them issues as well.
No, because I mean, like once you have kids and like once you start raising your kids in church,
Mm-hmm.
it's that much harder to leave.
Yeah.
Because you know your kids make friends, they build attachments, you build relationships with other parents and other families like that. Those are important, but they're not healthy in a church environment. And but like it's just so much harder to leave. And then as soon as you enter into this like parenthood realm in a church, you are you have so much more like advice thrown at you from
Mm-hmm.
other women in the church that are just like, oh, you have to do this and you have to breastfeed and you can't do this and you can't blah 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 blah. And there's so many opinions, which I mean that's motherhood in general. Everybody has opinions about
Yeah.
motherhood, but like it's so extra in the IFB setting.
Yeah.
Like, obviously I'm not a mom, so I was never like personally in that position, but I've heard conversations and I've
Mm-hmm.
talked to other moms in those situations, and it's just like, oh my god, I'm so glad that when I have a kid, like it's not going to be in that setting, because my overthinking ass would just be so
Yeah.
overwhelmed with
No,
it.
I feel like motherhood in general is definitely like it's like this unspoken thing that like everyone has to judge you for some
Yeah.
reason. Every single person feels like they have some sort of I don't know. It's the same like literally when you're pregnant. It's the same
Mhm.
thing. They're like, "Oh, like are you going to breastfeed? Oh, are you going to do raise your kids like this? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Can I touch your stomach?" Oh, but like it's like you're not even your own. You're just
Yeah.
like you belong to the public and
You
you
are a
belong to
host.
everybody. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like they just throw advice on you. And a lot of times I'm like, well, I mean, based on my actual story of what happened to me, it's like I became so overwhelmed because there was so much information to like process,
Mhm.
and it just felt like I needed all these things. I have to buy all these things for her and
Yeah.
uh prep everything for her. The nursery has to be perfect. All of these things, right? Like all like literal things that you need to
Yeah.
get. And then on top of that, it's like preparing for it and mentally and emotionally. And then people just being like saying things that aren't really helpful, or they think it's helpful, but it's not really like when I was beyond exhausted when I was pregnant because I was vomiting and sick and all the things. And then them being like, well, wait till you have the baby. Like I literally hate the whole like, wait till he's a toddler, wait till
Yeah.
this, wait till blah, 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 blah. Like, um,
Who are you
it's,
helping with that?
yeah, like just giving us negative, like, to, to look forward to something being worse than the
Yeah.
situation you're in right now.
Like, thanks. I'm so glad it doesn't get better. That's great to know. That's exactly what I need to hear right now. That just
Yeah. No,
instantly
for
takes
me,
away all of
whenever
the
I
feelings.
whenever I see someone like pregnant or whatever, or like uh announce that they're pregnant, I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
so excited for you because like
Yeah.
I don't want people to be like, wait till this. Like I I try to be more positive in it, and like obviously there are hardships in parenting and stuff like that, but like
Of
I would
course.
say it does, like the good stuff always outweighs the bad stuff, and like it doesn't always feel that way. And there I would say like the same with any relationship, there's ebbs and flow and stuff like that. It's just you never know what you're going to be like dealing with in the next
Right.
phase and stuff. But um I remember people saying that to me, and I was like, okay, like thanks for telling me that. And then it was because I was having insomnia stuff. I was just feeling so horrible and not advocating for myself that I couldn't sleep. And so postpartum, once I was home with medication and with my baby, I slept way better than I did when I was pregnant. So I'm like,
Good.
fuck you. Like, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I also like I also think that I mean this is not necessarily church specific. Again, I think that like this kind of stuff is worse in the church environment. Um but like if you don't have kids, you're not allowed to have feelings. Like if
Yeah.
I say like I'm really tired today or I'm exhausted, they're just like, wait till you have
Mhm.
a kid, or glad
Yeah.
you don't have a kid, or I'm just like, fuck you,
Why?
thank you.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah. I
like I'm not like moms, like parents don't have a monopoly on being tired.
yeah.
Sorry, like
Well,
you're
like
allowed to be
nobody does.
tired, and kids
Yeah.
are like exhausting,
Yeah.
absolutely. Moms are tired and they get to be, and that gets to be valid, but everybody else also gets to be really tired. Thanks.
Yeah. I think
Appreciate
that
it.
just like everyone does, like, I think that's the issue with like the wait till you blah blah blah
Yeah,
idea. It's like uh very invalidating. Like it's like,
incredibly
no,
so.
everybody can have their feelings validated and
Yeah.
everyone can feel like
It's
their
like you don't
reality is their reality, right?
you
Like you
don't
can't,
need to like invalidate somebody else to make yourself feel better. Like you don't need to
yeah,
put somebody else down and make them feel worse just to like elevate yourself in your own position. Like that's immature. It's very
yeah,
childish.
yeah. And
But
everyone has their own experiences and everything. And um, parenting each different child is different. Like I feel like
yeah,
people kind of, especially in the church, want you to discipline your kids the same exact way in a
immediately.
certain,
Yeah,
yeah. And we are definitely not disciplining our kids in the way that the church would.
right.
And I knew that like a very long time ago, um, that I didn't ever want to hit my kids.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, but like I I think one thing too is having everyone give you advice. And I would say like with like single people too, kind of like chiming in when it's like they don't know what's going on, but it's also just annoying in general from people because it's like every situation's completely different. So like
Yeah.
unless we ask you for advice or ask you for like help or whatever, like can you just not
Can you just
comment
shut
on our
up?
parenting
Like,
or not comment
yeah.
on, because it's like we're all, for the most part, we're all trying our best to
Yeah.
raise these kids and do what's best for them. So, yeah, but I could never imagine raising my kids in church. And we've talked about this so many times, like
Mhm.
especially since like my daughter's highly sensitive. There's no way.
No.
No way. Yeah.
I
So,
I
so I
am
definitely
glad
missed
you
the
don't have
bullet.
to see what church does to her. I'm very
Yeah.
glad that we don't get to find out, and that's great.
Right. Yeah. She has a clean slate and
Yeah.
is able to hopefully feel loved and accepted
Yeah.
for as long as she can.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I would say, so the reason we're talking about Faith
Yes.
Baptist Church is because we found out something
We did
recently.
indeed.
We found out that Pastor Boyle, the pastor of the church, is stepping down.
Mhm.
And it's due to health reasons. Um,
Mhm.
we are obviously happy about this, but
I have a lot of feelings. Like
yeah.
I have a lot of feelings about this. Like okay, so Greg Boyle has been the pastor at Faith Baptist Church since its inception. The
Hmm.
church started in his and Patty's living room. I mean, he's told that story 100 times.
Hmm.
Um, they like also every single church anniversary, um, it's brought up how this is not only the church's anniversary, but it's also pastor's anniversary, and we get to celebrate them both. And you know, pastors or like churches don't get this. They don't get the same pastor for, oh my God, it's been like, what, 30, 40 years? I don't know. But, you know, he's in his 70s. He's been the pastor of Faith Baptist since it started.
Yeah.
And that's always been like a huge thing at Faith is like,
Interesting.
you know, we were so thankful for his dedication and his loyalty and, you know, all of those kinds of things. That was always such a huge focus around like church anniversary time. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I have a lot of, I have so many feelings about this. Like, I don't think that Greg Boyle is fit to be a pastor, knowing the things that I know.
Right.
So I am glad that he will no longer be a pastor. I think that that is correct. What I don't think is correct is stepping down for health reasons, when there have been hundreds of opportunities where if he was a good person, if he was a good pastor and really wanted to do the right thing, he would have stepped down for other reasons and made them very clear why he was stepping down.
What reasons, Josie?
Oh, how much time do we have? No, there are so many stories of abuse at Faith Baptist. So many people who have gone to Pastor Boyle with issues or concerns regarding sexual abuse, regarding domestic violence, different things like that, and have been told to just be better. You know, I had a conversation recently with somebody who was in a really abusive marriage at Faith, and she was told by Pastor Boyle that he would never counsel for a biblical divorce. It would never be an option for her to get divorced, even though she was experiencing an incredible amount of abuse at the time from her then husband. Thankfully, they are divorced now. But, you know, it's so many stories. Like, we've talked about some. We have some that we're not going to talk about publicly just because people are not ready to share those, and that is 100% okay. But we
do have stories that are coming up, hopefully, within, you know, the next few months.
Yeah.
But I think that if you haven't listened to a lot of our guests, like that we've had, a lot of them are from Faith, and a lot of them have experienced abusive situations and things that have gone on under the watch of Pastor Boyle.
And not even just these things happening under his leadership, but his leadership being very ambivalent towards abuse, and not taking appropriate actions, not reporting things to the police, not counseling with, you know, helping people actually in mind, really just focusing on protecting abusers is what his pastoral lineage is. This is his legacy. Like, and to me, that's really sad. Like, it's really, really sad to look at this place that I once called home, to look at this place that was once like the epicenter of my entire world, and this man who was so important to me and so precious to me is the position that he was in my life. And to look at that and understand that it was all built on lies, and it was all built on abuse, and it was all built on allowing other people to do really, really horrible things. It's really sad to look at that. And I do feel a sense of closure with him stepping down. I think that it feels like the end of an era way too late, is what it feels like.
But with the thoughts of who will be taking over, I just feel that the cycle of abuse isn't going to end. It's not going to end.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think that Faith Baptist Church should completely get rid of the church leadership if they want to continue to, like, if they want
either
to
shut down or get someone that's an actually
because like
that
I
doesn't cover up abuse.
exactly, I don't even have a problem necessarily with the Baptist religion at its core. Like, if
Hmm.
that's what you want to believe in, then that's fine. I have an issue with the way that they interpret scripture and they interpret doctrine to enable themselves to commit more and more abuse and cover up more and more
Yeah,
abuse.
right. I would say I'm like we respect each other's beliefs,
Yeah,
obviously. We
of
have different
course.
beliefs. We
Mm-hmm.
respect anyone's belief,
Yes.
but when you're like doing things that clearly are
Mm-hmm.
illegal or hurting others, not
Yep.
protecting children, protecting abusers, I'm like, what do you want us to do? Like, we can't not
Right.
critique that.
That's not respectable activity. I took an oh god, this was like 2 years ago. I took a course college online. I took a course on anthropology. And it was just like
Oh,
an introduction
cool.
to anthropology. It was very interesting.
That sounds fun.
And so anthropologists, they study people. They study
Hmm.
culture. That's their entire job. But they typically won't intervene in anything because everybody is raised with bias. Everybody
Hmm.
is raised and experiences things and life a certain way. And the course was really cool. It acknowledged that everybody has bias. So the job of anthropologists is to eliminate as much as they can. But also, like, there's a very strong code of ethics. Like, if something is happening that is actively hurting somebody else,
Hmm.
that's the line. Like, that's the line where
Right.
we go from observation to action. And I think that that's kind of that was very eye opening for me. Like, taking that course, I'm just like, that makes so much sense. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, looking at that church. So Pastor Boyle has recommended to the congregation that Pastor Rick Donley, who is I think an assistant pastor, that's his role now, something like
Yes.
that.
Hmm.
Um, so Pastor Boyle has recommended that Rick Donley take over. Nothing is official yet. The church congregation will vote at some point on who they want the next pastor to be, but that's who he's recommended.
Yeah. So, Pastor Donley has been the assistant pastor at Faith before,
Yes.
and then he ended up being the pastor at my church for
Mm-hmm.
a few years, and um, left that
Mm-hmm.
due to bad circumstances.
Yeah.
So, um, it's
There's
just
look, there's not a lot that we can say about that.
yeah.
To protect privacy and to protect people's rights to their own experiences, like there are things that we're not going to talk about, publicly. But I think that I would be comfortable saying that Pastor Donley did not leave under good circumstances,
Hmm.
um, and it's worth noting that leaving Willamette under those circumstances, coming back to faith, none of those circumstances, none of that activity that had happened at Willamette was communicated to anyone at faith, to the
Yeah.
general congregation. So there are lots of things that happened at Willamette that people at faith have no idea about. I talked to my mom recently, and I was like, hey, just kind of fact finding here, wanting to make sure, like, when Pastor Donley came back, like, what was the message?
Hmm.
And she was like, I don't know. It was just like the Donleys are back. Yay, cool. That was it.
Hmm.
So none of that was communicated. So I think that, yeah, I think that Pastor Boyle, even knowing everything that we're talking about, even knowing that people are coming forward with stories of abuse, even knowing that we're done shutting up about this, um, and still making the decision to recommend Rick Donley as taking over for him, speaks volumes about his character or lack thereof.
To me, it's very classic for Pastor Boyle to just bring people in, and even if they are abusers,
Mm-hmm.
he likes to harbor them, I guess.
I think that just like my experience growing up there and like hearing some of the things, I think that some of it comes from desperation of maybe saving face. I think is the way I take it, like keeping up appearances, because I remember like, you know, they would ask like college students or recent college grads like with very little experience, like they would take anybody they could to be teachers in the school or Sunday school teachers, like
Right.
anybody that volunteered, regardless
Oh,
of
yeah.
history
Oh,
or
yeah.
ability or anything like that.
Like, if you don't know anything about chemistry, it doesn't matter as
Yeah,
long as
no,
you're
sitting in
willing.
sitting in like you know, I went to that school for several years. My entire like middle school and high school experience was there. So we would sit in like a science class, and either it was like a video class where we watched a
Yeah.
video of a teacher in another school,
And we
or
watched those children do the
mm-hmm.
experiments.
Yeah, we never did any experiments. We never, you know, got to make anything go boom. It was very boring.
Oh, yeah. And
Like we never had
I
any.
love science.
Yeah.
Like, that was my favorite. And when I had a good teacher, it was like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But when I didn't, and I had teachers that didn't know what the fuck they were talking about,
Right.
I didn't do good. And it
Yeah.
wasn't very interesting. But that's just what private schools within, like, you know, churches, like IFB churches,
Yeah.
a lot of them just allow anybody to
Yeah.
come and be a teacher. So,
And I think at Faith it definitely came from a we don't have anybody else. This is what we're gonna have to do. But like you could also just not have a school. You know, there are other decisions you can make that don't negatively impact children. You don't just have to have a school. Like
yeah.
there are different things that you could do. So I think that a lot of teachers were put in place that were, you know, we know of some that were abusive or they were underqualified. Yeah, I
Mhm.
remember sitting in science class like just reading from a book. That's all we would do. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't know how to balance an equation. I'm very confused.
Mhm.
And my science teacher was like, oh, okay, well, here's the book part, how to read it. And then you can go to this timestamp in the video if you have questions.
Yeah, it
Thanks?
was not good.
Like,
Yeah.
that's not
No,
great.
it wasn't good.
But no, we should not be putting people in power that have a history of abuse. We just
Yeah.
shouldn't. You also shouldn't be putting people in charge of children who have never had experience being in charge of children and educating them. You shouldn't hire underqualified people just to save face and keep up appearances like, oh, we have a school.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you're not doing anybody any favors. You know, I so much I regret so much about my education. Like, I
Oh,
did not
100%.
get a good education.
But
And it's,
I feel terrible because, like, my parents paid so much for it.
I know, dude,
Like,
my,
I feel like shit when I say
yeah,
I didn't like it and I wish that I would have gone to a regular school or, like, a
yeah.
Christian school that wasn't so fucking
Well, because that's the thing. There
awful.
are good Christian schools that will educate children appropriately. Like, there's a school in Spokane. It's called the Oaks. And when I was a senior in high school, I really wanted to be a teacher. But I also did. I also knew that there was a lot wrong at Faith, and I didn't want to be like that kind of a teacher.
Yeah.
So I went and I shadowed a couple of classes. I went to a high school where I shadowed a friend's mom who was a teacher, and I just sat on one of her classes and just kind of like observed. And I did the same thing at the Oaks, and like, you know, the first one was a public school. The Oaks is a classical Christian academy. It's a pretty penny to send your children there for sure.
Yeah.
But like the education that those kids got is top tier. Like,
Mhm.
and they also have resources for like, you know, scholarships and grants you can apply for when you're looking at colleges, and they have, you know,
Right.
those kinds of help. They have like, you know, kids learn Latin, and they have debate classes and philosophy, and it's just so interesting.
Yeah, I
um
think that especially, like, having the ability to earn, like, scholarships and stuff, I think
yeah,
that's huge. Like,
yeah,
it's just I don't know. It's really crazy. To me, I think that I have a lot of sadness surrounding
Yeah.
like my education because,
Yeah.
you know, in the end, when we did switch to like video teaching, which is when the Donleys were there, it
Yep.
was just like the teachers were literally just babysitters
Mhm.
and we were just watching video, like the TV all day long.
Yeah.
And my brain could not, like, I could not pay attention
No.
long enough to like actually absorb anything because it was just so fucking boring. Like, I
Yeah.
can't, like, you can't even ask them questions or anything. And I
No.
ask a million questions. I need to know everything.
I
I,
took okay, so my senior year, we had the option in like these two different math courses. We could either take like consumer math, which is like mostly financial,
yeah.
um, or we could take pre-calculus. And
Hmm.
I really wanted to take pre-calculus. But you know, they only had a video class. So I was like, yeah, I'm used to video classes. It's fine. I'll just do that. So I took the video class and I got so confused. Like I was
Right.
able to keep up to a point if I rewatched the videos and like also search some YouTube videos on the side to try to understand it. But
Seriously.
like
Yeah.
my math teacher was like, "Yeah, no, I can't help you." So second semester I switched to consumer math because I'm just like I don't understand this. I'm not like I feel stupid
Yeah.
and I don't like feeling
Right.
stupid. So I switched to consumer math.
Yeah.
Um,
I struggled a lot, I would say, my senior year when they switched it to videos.
yeah.
I think they might have switched it to videos before. I can't honestly can't remember. But
Mm,
the times that we did have video, I sucked. Like my history was shit, my science was shit, my
yeah.
math, like my math we had an actual teacher, so I think I did better in that. And obviously English, we always had Miss Nicole, which I loved. Like I did
Yeah.
amazing in English because I had an amazing teacher. So that proves a lot. Like when you have a
Yeah.
good teacher and have a teacher that's like actually knows what they're talking about and is passionate about their work, you will
Yeah.
actually like do
Yeah.
better, you know? And
Yeah, I
so
will say like for that was the only math instance. Like our math teacher, she went to school for math. I think that she was a very qualified teacher. I
yeah.
don't think that it was reasonable to have her teach 7th through 12th grade math. Like
Hmm.
that's a lot of things to do. And
Yeah.
but I also did well in math because we didn't have math video classes. When I switched to a video class for math, that's when it all went to shit. And then
Right.
like I'm a smart person. I'm good at
Hmm.
school. Like
Hmm.
I actually really enjoy schoolwork, which
Yeah.
I know I'm a nerd, whatever.
I
But
enjoy
like
learning, I would say. I don't
but
prefer testing, but I
see, I
enjoy
like
learning.
testing. I love testing. I'm good at testing. And I think,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm
a lot of people aren't, and that's totally fine. But like, I am so good at school, and I feel like I had so much more potential, and it was
right.
just
You
completely
still do,
wasted.
Josie. Don't
Well,
even.
okay, but I'm 26. Like, I'm 26. I'm not gonna, you
You
know, I'm
can
not gonna
go.
go to an Ivy
No,
League school. Like, I'm not gonna
you
go get
can, but you can
scholarships.
go.
Like,
You can go to school still.
I know,
And
but it's
you have
expensive.
until you die to
I
go to
know.
school.
Well, and I want to, but it's
So
expensive.
don't put limits on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay?
But
I don't want to hear you limiting yourself.
my point is, I had like I know that I can still do a lot of things, and I like am still planning on doing a lot of things as soon as I can afford it. I've done some online college, and
Hmm.
it's been awesome. I really, really enjoyed it, but it's pricey, and I had to stop.
Right. Right.
So, like, so my point is that like I could have done something a lot different or a lot better with my life if I had not had my potential wasted at that
Right.
school. And it
Well,
was
yeah, because like
wasted.
if both of us ended up in a school that was better and with teachers that were better, that helped us with like teachers that actually reached out to our parents if we were struggling with a certain thing and maybe get us like help and tutors. Like even with my daughter, she's only in kindergarten and she's having a little bit of a harder time catching up as the other kids because I never like really enforced learning
Yeah.
school stuff
Sure.
until, yeah. So like other parents probably did, and I just didn't
Well, it's
because I
okay.
wanted
Either
to do
way.
a lot of more emotional learning and stuff.
I think
So,
she needed that though. Like I think that that's
yeah.
a like you kind of tailored your parenting to fit your child, which is what you should
Yeah.
do.
Oh yeah. So I was like, and it could be different with Aiden because it's like
Sure.
if he seems to be more interested in doing those things before school, which
Yeah.
I think he is only because she's going to school, right? Like he's
Right.
like, "Oh, let's say these things, let's learn these things." But with her, it was like it was different. So she's having like a little bit of extra help, and they didn't even tell me. It was just like, "Oh, she's kind of like she needs to learn the ABCs or like it's not like learning the ABCs, she can sing the song, but it's like specifically like recognizing different letters and stuff."
Mm.
And so they're working with her on the side, like to help
Yeah.
her so she can like
Yeah.
be like at the same pace as everyone else. And to me,
Yeah.
that's huge because I feel like if I was ever struggling, I would just be like so frustrated because I'm like, I hate losing. Like
Yeah.
I'm a very competitive person,
Same.
but I am just I cannot lose and like I want to um I try to give everything my all and like try to do my best with everything. So then when it's not working, I'm like, I'm doing my best. Why isn't it working?
Right.
Right. And so for me, it's like a lot of times I feel like, is it me or is it like the teacher? Because I don't get why I'm not getting this. Like I'm good at all of the other things, right? Like I have
Yeah.
A's and all the other stuff, but why am I not getting this? And
Yep.
so having like that literally free assistance for a child
Yeah.
and then allowing your child like because kids learn in different ways and certain times you need like different tutors and stuff so that they're able to like learn the way that they need to learn, right? Like I'm more of a visual learner, so
Right.
hands-on stuff is way better for me than just watching a video. So like
Yeah.
when it comes to like chemistry and all of those things in science, hands-on stuff, doing the work yourself
Yep.
is huge for me. Whereas we weren't allowed to do those things.
Yeah.
So it's just I feel definitely stunted, I would say, with
I
certain
agree.
things. And I wish that we could have like maybe just reached out to like get tutors or like I don't know, whatever. I think that if we had been in a public school or in just a better situation, we probably could have
Yeah.
gotten scholarships, right? And
Yeah.
like then we wouldn't be over here like fuck, like now we have to pay all this money so that we can get an education that we wanted to get.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
we feel like we can't now because life is expensive
Yeah, it's crazy
and
expensive.
and nobody thinks that it is apparently, but just
I don't know what rock
millennials
you're living under, but like it's
just no
expensive out here,
just millennials apparently think that life
I
is
guess.
expensive. Nobody else.
Well,
Like
life is more expensive for millennials and Gen Z than it was for people
yeah,
before.
boomers
Like,
don't think that life is expensive, but like shut the fuck up if your house payment was $20, right? Like
right? Facts. I remember like when I like when Theo and I got our first like house by ourselves, like no
mhm.
roommates, just the two of us. Our rent was like $9.95 at the time.
Jesus. That's
And
still high
which it
for
well yeah, and
rent.
it was a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom duplex. Um
Mhm.
in Spokane, and I mean it wasn't, I definitely wouldn't live in that part of town now, but it wasn't that bad back then. This
Yeah.
was in like, oh my god, 2017, 2018,
Mhm.
something like that. And our rent was $9.95. And I remember talking to my parents, and their house payment on a like
Oh
five
my
bedroom,
God.
2 bathroom house was like six something. Like I think it was like
Yeah.
620 something is what my dad said. And I'm just like, what was I doing when I was 2 years old? Why didn't I buy a house? Like,
Yeah, seriously.
come on,
Right.
2 year old Josie, get your shit together.
Yeah, right.
Um, but yeah, it's rough out here.
It is. And yeah, we would we would like to go to college,
I
you
would
know.
love to. Because,
Support
like,
this channel.
I'm right? Pay for
Support
my
this
college,
channel
please.
so we can go to college.
No, but for reals though, like I'm good at school. I like
Yeah.
school, and that's one of the reasons I like my job is because it's very school esque. Like it's a corporate job, and
Mhm.
I work in insurance. Like it's boring as hell, but like I'm good at learning the things, and I'm good at understanding the things, and like I'm good at school, and I like school. I wish that I am so sad that like
Right.
the smartness that I had when I was a kid was just wasted there.
Yeah, like we definitely didn't have the same opportunities as other
No.
kids had. And it was because honestly, our parents decided to shelter us. And um
Yeah. I have a hard
I
time
I
like
I think
go ahead.
that they did the best that they could with
Right.
what they believed and what they
I
knew.
agree.
But it's hard. It's always a really hard thing because I don't want my parents to think that I'm not grateful for the money they spent and
Right.
stuff, but it's just like it wasn't all rainbows and sunshines as
Yeah.
maybe they'd like to believe, you know?
Well, and
And
I feel so bad like for how much money they put into it and like how I'm not ungrateful that they did that, that they thought that they were
Mhm.
doing the best thing for me and that they
Right.
sacrificed to do it for me. I'm
Yeah,
not
like their
ungrateful.
sacrifice and their like love in deciding those things for us, like I'm grateful for that and I understand it,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
But I'm sad.
yeah, I think that it's okay for us to have both feelings at the same time.
I
I
think
think
so
it's hard
too.
for us to process that,
I
but
know, because like I talk, a bit about my relationship with my parents, which is like it's okay. It's not crazy close. It's mutually understanding for the most part.
right.
Um, but like I don't ever want my parents to think that I don't love them and that I'm not grateful for the choices that they
Mhm.
made that they thought were in my best interest. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, it's like it's definitely hard to talk to parents about.
yeah,
I don't know if it's just the boomers that kind of like struggle with like ever saying sorry or that they made a mistake or anything like that. And like that's okay. Like I feel like I'm used to it now. But I just I don't know. It's hard because I feel like whenever I do talk about anything, it's just very triggering for them and
yeah,
it's really uncomfortable and I just don't like to. So I
yeah,
think that I usually avoid talking about things more than anything so that I don't have to feel uncomfortable or make them feel uncomfortable. Like I'm not grateful or don't want a relationship with them, right? Like
right,
I don't know. I it sucks though because obviously it limits what we can talk about and
yeah,
it makes it a lot harder to have a relationship. Like if you are having a relationship with someone that like you can't talk about 70% of the you normal people can talk about, it
mm-hmm.
makes it really really hard to have a relationship with them. So
Yeah,
that part sucks because obviously as a daughter, I crave a relationship with my parents and like when you don't have that, it sucks. And like
yeah,
when it's not as deep and emotionally connected as it used to be, it's
right.
hard and it feels painful because you're like, is it me? Like, is it because of this? Whatever. But yeah, it's hard for
I
sure.
think that like I think sometimes with my parents like they have been finding out a lot in the last year, which has been a lot for them.
Right.
And I think
Surprise.
that I know that they both have a lot of guilt. Um,
Yeah.
and and that's hard for me cuz like I don't know. Yes, there were things that they could have done differently and better
Hmm.
as parents. However, they were also parenting in a cult. Like they were also
Yeah.
not given good guidance for a lot of things. Like and I also like I think it is hard to talk about some of these things, that like some of the feelings or some of the things that maybe I wish they did differently, because I feel like I don't know how to communicate it in a way that's like, yes, I wish that maybe some of these things were different. However, that doesn't mean I don't love you. That doesn't mean that
Yeah.
I'm not
Right.
grateful, that I know that you did the best that you could. That doesn't mean that I don't have sympathy and empathy
Mhm.
for like why you did the things that you did and you made the decisions you made. Like, um, and I think it can be really hard to talk to parents with that amount of guilt and regret like weighing on them, because I feel like sometimes everything feels like an attack when it's
Right.
not.
Right.
And
They
it
do.
really is
They
just
take
like,
everything as an attack a lot of
yeah.
times on their
And I
parenting and
think
stuff.
personally, like, my parents have gotten a lot better with that. They went to therapy with me recently, which was really, really good.
Yeah.
Um, and it was definitely needed. But, like, I don't
I
know.
think
It's,
that have you ever had them say like where you bring like one thing up and then they're like, "Well, I was a horrible parent then." Just because you're like bringing
not recently.
one thing
No.
up about
When
things
I was a kid, yeah. Oh yeah. Like when I was still living
like
in
the
that house,
drama,
100%. I'm
Jesus.
just like, no, that's not what I meant.
Like I'm just bringing up one instance, not
Yeah.
like
Well, and
everything.
sometimes, like, I don't know. Sometimes I think sometimes I want to just cry to my mom.
Right.
And that's going to make me cry. Sometimes I just want
Yeah.
to cry to my mom and just be like, Mom, I'm sad.
Mhm.
And, like, you don't need to fix it. I know that you want to, but you can't fix it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to cry to my mom, you know?
100% I do know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do know.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably a little more, I would say it's harder on your end for sure than mine. I think that
We don't compare traumas. We're
I know, but I just feel like, yeah, it's just, I probably could. It's just hard. Like, it's really
yeah.
hard for me to get there again and
Yeah.
not cry about talking about things.
Oh yeah. I'm a big old crybaby. I cry about everything. We know this.
But yeah, it's I think it all kind of comes down to the fact that we need to kind of respect our kids in their respect their reality, right? Their
Right.
perspective of their reality and um allow them to kind of have things that they disagreed with but obviously still love you. Like
Right.
I think it's that's just how life works. That's how like evolution or humans, like that's how we get better. You know,
Yeah.
we see what's been done and we take the good things from it. So like with parenting, yes, there's 100 like there's 100 things I take from my parents to
Oh
parent my kids.
yeah.
But
100%.
there's also certain things that I don't want to pass on. And that's
Right.
okay. And they got that
That
choice.
well,
Now
yeah,
I have this
exactly.
choice. And
Like
then my
there were
kids will
things
have that
that
choice.
I know that there were things that my mom did specifically because she didn't appreciate some of the things about how she was raised,
Yeah.
which is totally understandable. Like that's a
Hmm.
choice that you get. That's autonomy that you get as a parent. And like
Yeah.
I don't think that, for you, if Arya grows up and has kids and is like, I don't want to do this way, if you sat
Hmm.
there and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I was such a terrible mom to you, like that's not okay. It's be like, okay,
Yeah.
cool, I'm glad that you feel that you have the independence to do that and you can talk to me about that and I respect it.
Yeah. I
That's the
think that,
response.
right. I think that it's like, oh, we like putting myself in a spot of kind of trying my best to always say sorry when things
Yeah.
like when I don't do something right or when I say something mean or whatever. Like saying that I've done something wrong. Like allowing
Yeah.
myself to kind of always be in that position. I hope that like throughout the years I continue to do that so that when they do bring up something of like I really didn't really like this. growing up. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh my God. Like, I'm going to be like, I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't realize that it affected you that way. Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's what I'm able to pass on. And, you know,
I'm really excited to see kind of like what the next generation of parents looks like. This is totally out of pocket, but like, I don't know. I
well,
think that
Gen Z is starting to parent, right? Gen Z?
are they really?
I think so.
God, am
I
I
think there's
that old?
I think there's Gen Z parents, yeah.
Oh
I think
shit, man,
so.
I'm old.
It's interesting.
But like, okay, so I'm really interested to see what kids look like in the next like 10, 15 years. Like
Right.
kids that were raised, even if you're not doing like stereotypical gentle parenting, but like kids that were raised kinder and gentler and more openly, like with
Usually we
communication.
like at least what I call mine is respectful parenting.
Yeah.
Because it's just respecting them as a human
Yeah.
being. So.
I'm interested to see what effect that has on children because it's just
Yeah.
so much more accepted and widespread now than it was, in past generations. So I'm really
Yeah.
interested. That's totally out of
Yeah.
pocket. Anyhow.
But yeah, um that was just a tangent on
Yeah, big one, sorry. Woo.
on school.
Anywho.
But yeah, so I would say that um we kind of just wanted to come in today and kind of let you guys know what's happening within Faith Baptist Church, and that Pastor Boyle is stepping down. It was something that we were like, thank God this is happening if you believe in God. And then we got the news that Pastor Donley might be the next pastor. And that got me very furious.
Yeah.
And we are hoping to do an episode within, like, in the future about kind of why we feel that way about Pastor Donley and trying to go in as much depth as we possibly can. There are victims that we can't speak about, and we want to respect everyone in the situation, but we feel that it's our duty, like, I don't know, like, as human beings to protect that congregation.
Yeah.
And to protect the people and the children in that church. And I feel like it's the fact that the church doesn't know why Pastor Donley left my church.
Yes.
And that he's there.
It's disgusting.
I think that it's sickening that that was allowed to happen and they were allowed to step down without any issue of, like, even on the Willamette side of it being a family emergency type thing.
Right.
So we'd like to sit down and have a separate video for that and kind of why we believe Rick Donley shouldn't be in a position of power. And
I think that, like, before we have like that conversation really in depth, like I want to make sure, like, this is so important to me, like on a personal level. It is so important to me that, like, I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of opinions about that, but like I want to know everything I possibly can and point to every fact I possibly can, every single piece of evidence I possibly can, like, because it is so important to me that the children and the women at that church are protected.
And the men.
Well, and the men, yes, of course. But like we know that religion negatively influences kids and women more than it does men.
Right.
But just, on a personal level, like, I have people that go to that church that are very important to me, that I love very dearly.
Right.
And most of them don't agree with what I'm doing, and they have a huge problem with it, and that's fine. You're like have a problem with it, go for it. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I care. I care very much about what happens to the people that still go there, because I know that a lot of them are really good people and they're just trying to do their best and they don't know any better. I know better. I've been out of it for long enough to know better. I've done the work to know better. So
Right.
I feel a very strong sense of responsibility to do something about it.
Yeah, I think that when we heard about this, we all came together, at least the people from the ex-faith people,
Yeah.
um, and we're just outraged. And I think the biggest reason is because we know that the church doesn't know what happened
Yes.
with Pastor Donley and his
Yes.
family at Willamette, and the fact that he's being allowed to be a pastor after trying to hide a situation like this, and Pastor
Mm-hmm.
Boyle
Mm-hmm.
backing him up to try to hide the
Yep.
situation of abuse.
So
I
it's
can't
very clear to me
it's
that,
really it's really hard to sit by and watch this.
yeah,
It's really, really hard.
it's very clear to me that by making this decision, that Pastor Boyle has no regret for his actions,
Right.
that he takes no accountability for the hurt that he's caused.
Yeah, he hasn't learned
Um,
anything.
no,
He
it's
thinks
very
that
clear to me that he
everything he's
hasn't learned
done
anything.
is right.
Yeah. And that's really sad. That's
Mhm.
really, really sad. Um, yeah, he has no, honestly, it's sad to look at, like, externally, but on a personal level, it's really sad to me that he doesn't care about me like he said he did.
Right.
Like, this man was so important to me. He I took his advice on everything. I did everything that he said, and I
I
wanted
mean,
so bad to make him happy and make him proud of me. Like,
and if you're in the IFB or in a cult at all, you understand that the man of God is precious and
yeah,
someone to be revered. Um, and they mean a lot to you,
yeah,
and you seek their approval because
yeah.
they're the man of God. Like, it's a huge thing. It's not
It's a
just,
huge deal.
yeah,
And
it's
it's just heartbreaking for me that he just doesn't care how much he hurt me. That
right,
he just doesn't care that his actions and inaction to take
right,
care of things, like, he just doesn't care. He doesn't actually care about me. And that is so sad for me, because I even remember, after every single counseling appointment I ever had with him, before I left the room, like, as I would get up and be like, okay, thanks, talk to you later, bye. And before I left his office, he would always look at me and say, what's the one thing I want you to remember? And I would say back that you love me and that you care about me. Every single counseling session, every single time. He said that to me every single time. Like,
Jesus,
so to have that for years, and I
right,
truly believed that even if he didn't do the right thing, that he really wanted what was best for me, and that he really did love me and care about me, and wanted to take care of me. I truly believed that. And honestly, even up until that announcement was made, I still kind of, like, clung to a piece of that,
right,
like, maybe he just didn't know how bad he was hurting people. Maybe there's a piece of him that really just didn't know that all of this was so hurtful to so many people, and by making this decision, that's gone. There,
right.
like, I don't have any pieces of that left. It was all just a huge big lie. So that's been one of those, like, kind of, like, really hard feelings about this.
Yeah, I think also, a lot of you guys were kind of, I would say I'm a little bit more of a right, because I didn't go there
Right.
as
You didn't
much
grow
as you
up
guys.
there.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of you still cling to some sort of empathy and compassion for him,
We do.
and I'm very much like, why?
Yeah.
And straight to the point. And I feel like you guys felt that way when you found out like about his illness that he has right now.
Yeah.
And kind of that being part of like why he's stepping down. And that apparently he's like losing his hearing
Yeah.
is what we heard. Um
Like in part, yeah, he's I think completely deaf in one ear or something like that.
yeah, and so I remember telling them that like
I love
I
that
just
you
feel
said
like
this.
I just feel like it's like karma and like justice in some way, um that he's losing his hearing after
Yeah.
hearing all of these different confessions and hearing all of these different children begging him for help and him just like turning an eye to it all.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I'm like, I feel like this is the universe or God or whatever you call it telling him that like you're done. Like you are done hearing anything because you don't seem to do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's like justice in some way of like you aren't worthy to
Yeah.
hear people like confess things to you. You're not worthy for this. And but with that it's like yeah, him choosing someone who has also been reckless with his decisions
Yes.
um is devastating. It's
It is.
devastating for the church, and I'm really scared of what's going to happen. And I'm really scared that the cycle of abuse isn't ending with Pastor Boyle, that it's going to continue. Because if you see something that happens that's so horrific
Yeah.
that happened and you decide to not want to go to the police about it, like where are your ethics, like your morals? Like you're going to
Yeah.
keep doing the same thing. If someone didn't catch you and make you report these things, you would have never done it.
Right.
So why would you in the future, right?
Right.
Like you only did the right thing because you were forced to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. So
That's not actually doing the right thing. That's
right.
doing the easy
It's
thing.
not.
That's doing the socially acceptable thing.
It's doing
That's
like,
not actually
oh
doing the
shit,
right
I
thing.
got caught, so now I have to be good.
Yeah.
Like a child does,
There's
right?
no morality in just doing the socially acceptable thing. There's none. So
Yeah, so we have very strong opinions about
clearly.
Pastor Donley being allegedly the next pastor of
Yeah.
this church, and we're hoping to put out a video talking about it, and we're going to do our best to say everything we can.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing for that video, like our biggest goal, is just to allow the information to kind of be out there as much as possible and hope that people at Faith see it and hope that, I don't know, that they maybe start asking questions and
Yeah. And I think
um
if you're listening, like, and I know people at Faith do listen. So
right.
if you currently attend Faith Baptist Church and you're listening to us rant about all of these things, have some courage, make a difference, like make a choice to protect people. Don't
That
just go
matter.
along with
That
it. Don't just go
don't
along with it. Like there's no reason to just go along with it. Don't be easy. Don't be easy.
Yeah, I think that we need more people to stand up for what's right and not allow
And that's in the
abusers to
Bible
get away
so
with
much.
things. Yeah.
That's in the Bible
And
so much. Like this, I can't even tell you how many sermons I have that I have listened to where it talks about doing what's right. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego burned
yeah,
in the
like
fiery furnace.
like
Like,
be the one that stands up, right?
yeah,
Be the one that stands up in the midst of all of the people that are going to be against you. And like I feel like with
that's
this
Christianity.
podcast,
That's
right, with
biblical
this podcast
Christianity.
we're like we're trying to do that. We're trying to be the ones to stand up and call people out because they deserve to be called out. They don't deserve to be hidden
gossiping.
and
This
protected.
isn't. Yeah. No.
If you choose to do something horrific, then I'm sorry, we're going to talk about it. Like, it deserves to be told to people so that they are safe. Mm-hmm. So that the future children of this world are safe. It's not about us. It's about others. Like, and hoping that what happened to Josie doesn't happen to another kid, right?
Yeah.
That there's not another Josie out there that gets abused and doesn't get help, right? Like, that gets help that looks like help, but it's not. And it's disguised in love, but it's hurtful, right? And that's not love. That's not Christianity. That's not being a good person. No. And I'm very tired of it. I don't want to keep hearing these stories of abuse and things being covered up. I'm sick of it. That's the main reason why I left church and left God. So if you want to change my mind about if a God exists, then do something about it and be a good Christian. Stand up for what's right and do right, right? Like, that's why I left.
If you
that's
really
literally why I left.
Like, preaching the gospel, if you really want to start winning souls for Christ, like, if you actually want to accomplish that, you don't do that by allowing people in power that continue to abuse children, abuse other people, and protect the people that do. That's not how you accomplish that goal. Like, so, I mean, like, honestly, take a really hard look at your fucking priorities, because if you go to faith and you're considering agreeing with Pastor Boyle and voting in for Rick Donley, you don't have the right priorities, or you don't have information that's necessary. Like, you have to do your research. You can't just say, oh, yes, Pastor Boyle said, so yes, yes, yes. That's called being a sheep, and that's not
you need to ask questions of why. Why did he leave Willamette? What happened? What were the circumstances? I feel like the congregation has the right to know what the circumstances were to protect their kids, their families. And I mean, honestly, the situation that happened at Willamette, the reason why the Donleys left is the reason I stopped God, like one of the biggest reasons. Yeah. And I can't remember if I was pregnant at the time or if it was right before getting pregnant, but it was a huge reason why I'm like, never, ever. My kids are never going to church ever. Not ever. So
no, I don't blame you.
If, maybe if things changed, maybe if things got better, who knows? But
watch us in 10 years actually go to a Baptist church.
I can't imagine. Maybe in 10 years I'll be over all the trauma and stuff and anxiety surrounding it. So maybe. Okay. But it would be more of like, I just want to know what's going on and kind of sneak around and figure out things. But maybe when we live in the same city, we can.
Maybe we'll go to a church. I would go to a church with you.
For research purposes. Fake go. Yeah, we can fake going to a church.
For research purposes, I would go.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Can you imagine putting on one of those dresses? Oh my god! Can you imagine putting on a fucking denim skirt again?
I don't want to put on any skirts.
We're gonna go to church in culottes.
Okay, but listen. I kind of want to go into a church and kind of see how high we could get up in the church.
Wait, you mean like actually like not just a service? You mean like
no, like get involved and see how high up in the church we can get.
Girl, I do not have the energy for that. I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
I would be like I want to like become
I think we'd be good pastors.
Yeah,
I think we could be co-pastors. It'd be fun.
Me as an atheist, I'll become the pastor of the church.
Yeah.
Only if it's contemporary though, but
no.
I would at least I feel like I would at
Baptist
least
church to atheism, and like you're gonna be the first Baptist female preacher ever.
No, I would I would see myself being like the worship leader for sure.
You
But
could,
that's
yeah, for
that's
sure.
still more contemporary. But yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I
The
do
song
kind of
leader.
want to because I miss singing. And I'm like,
I
I don't
do
really
miss,
believe this
yeah.
stuff, but I do
You
miss
know, I,
singing.
weirdly enough, I know that they trigger you, but I miss hymns. Like, I
You
like
miss
singing
hymns?
hymns. I do. I like singing hymns.
Mm.
Sometimes I still, like, if I'm cleaning or if I'm just, like,
Mm.
driving or,
I
like,
think
sometimes I still sing them.
I think more than anything, I'll like remember more contemporary songs that I like
Yeah.
to sing before.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll sing those kind of in my head and I kind of just a different mindset with it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's and it's not that I don't know. It's not that the hymns trigger me specifically. I would say it's the singing.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's more the singing. Um, but I really miss singing and I miss like I like to sing and it's something
Yeah.
fun doing. So I've thought about like joining like a random choir or like finding a
That'd be
band to
fun.
join or something as a side project. I don't
All
know.
right.
But I'm like I think too scared to do that. So
Karaoke. We'll stick with karaoke.
yeah, I like karaoke. But that's kind of something I've thought about, like just going to church just so I could come to worship.
I can't. You're a disaster. I can't.
That's one of my dreams one
Oh my
day.
god. 2025 vision board. Oh
Should
my
we make
god.
one? Oh my gosh, should we make one? Should we try to do a vision board maybe for our
Sure.
podcast?
We could do a vision board. I'm down with
That'd be
that.
fun.
I've never done one before.
I haven't either.
Anywho, uh, I think that's about it for today,
Yeah.
for this episode. Just thank you guys so much for listening and hearing us out. We really hope to be able to bring some more information about Pastor Donley to light soon. Again, like it's very important to us, so we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence, doing all the research that we need to do, and presenting the facts at the end of the day. So we're working on that and should hopefully be able to do that in the next couple of weeks or so. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone. Share your story.
If you have been affected by religious trauma or abuse, we want to hear your story.
Even if you're not ready to share publicly, we would be happy to listen and support you on your journey, free of judgment or
Please email us at cultconfessionskjv@gmail.com to get started.
We believe you.